Okay, thank you all again for attending. Tony and I are really excited for this session, and it was helpful for me to see what's coming in 2015, as well as it was, I'm sure, helpful for Tony to write some of these ideas down. 2015 is going to be an awesome year. 2014 was a great year, so just good things are coming. Tony, I'm going to hand over the ropes now, and like I said to those of you earlier, if you have any questions, just place it in the GoToWebinar question area, and I'll ask those questions of Tony, or I'll answer them myself. And thank you again for attending.
All right, thanks, Barrett. Good morning, afternoon, and evening to all those attending. I'm sure we have a global audience out there, so I want to make sure I cover everyone. Today we're going to cover the iForm advancements for 2015, and we're going to, before we get started, just kind of take a look back and, see what we've done and kind of show you how we think, why we think that way, and then lay out the roadmap for what 2015 holds. So just to let you know, again, we are going to start with a recap, okay? So 2014, it seemed like yesterday we were doing planning for this, and now it's done and in the history books. And a colleague of mine actually, made a good suggestion that every year we do New Year planning, but this year we should really, take a look back and always take a look back at what you were able to accomplish, what you planned, what you didn't plan but still did, and use that as a guiding light for the next year. So we're going to go ahead and do that and share it with the audience. 2014, we had 12 scheduled releases. There were a few patches, as always, in between those, but we are pretty much sticking to a monthly release cycle. And so you'll see why that's kind of important in the next few slides. We also upgraded our RSS and Atom feeds. This was just a matter of meeting the new standards and making sure that the data you're collecting can now feed into other systems which are expecting current versions of both RSS and Atom formats. We also were able to integrate with the Manatee Works software. And for those of you not familiar, Manatee Works is a barcode scanning engine that effectively uses the device camera. And we were able to implement this on the iOS and the Android client. So I think this is a key advantage as the cameras have gotten much better and the barcode technology is more diverse. You can do much more than 1D or one-dimensional codes. Scanning QR codes or even like driver's license or identity cards can really streamline data collection because you're not typing all that stuff in manually. So really happy about Manatee Works. Also, you don't have to buy extra hardware that pairs up with the device either through a Bluetooth or some like port connection. So very excited about that. We also released our Zapier plugin, and this is actually a really exciting thing for us because it's actually developing a integration tool for business users, and Zapier can do some really wonderful things very quickly, and we believe and see that our customers appreciate this, and we're happy to get that out there, and also would like to hear some feedback on what we can do better or what we can add to this plugin. So any of those folks out there who are not using Zapier, please stop by, check that out, and see how quickly you can tie iFormBuilder into other systems. It's pretty funny because we optimized for iOS 7 in 2014. You'll also see we optimized for iOS 8 in the same year. But this is a big one. iOS 7 introduced a lot of new user interface concepts, and so we really focused on when iOS 7 came out, making sure that we had a product that worked and was pretty stable, or stable to carry out business needs, and then worked on the interface. So we optimized for iOS 7, changed the controls around, and it looked a lot better in 2014 than it did in 2013. On the server side, we've implemented custom JavaScript extensions, and so those of you who have a private database or server admins, if you jump into your server info, you'll see there's an extension section there. And basically what this allows you to do is execute JavaScript within your admin. So if you have you're all probably familiar with the chat system that we've set up on our help desk, and possibly have even seen it on iFormBuilder.com. That's actually executing a JavaScript extension in the iFormBuilder.com console, and also in our Zendesk. So, definitely take a look into that. You can certainly add your own chat in if you're a private database account. Other tools like analytics or any sorts of like like walkthroughs or pointers on what to do while you're in your application. Jumping over to the next page, we have for the Thunderplug crew out there some independent licensing additions which were key. In the past, Thunderplug had to sync with the cloud in order to get the licenses for the users that wanted to be in the field connecting to the server, or the Thunderplug. This is okay in theory, but we quickly realized that if a device breaks or you have unplanned devices that need to assist and work in the field, then we quickly ran into problems. So we kind of rethought that, and we actually added the licensing to the plug directly. So now those folks that want to use a Thunderplug can purchase a plug. The plug goes to the field after a quick initial sync to grab all the forms, and you can bring all the devices on in the field disconnected and do everything you need to do. So that was a key improvement. We also allowed for data cleansing, if you will, through the admin console. We were only allowing initially one record to be edited at any given time. We now allow up to 100 records to be modified within the admin console. So if you're looking at your list view and you do a select all, however many you're showing will be selected. And if you click, click the edit button, it'll effectively show you at the top that you're editing all those records, and any one value that you change would then apply to all those records. So it can be very helpful if you had a miskeyed in value, you're trying to fix typos. You don't have to do them one at a time. You can do many of them at one time. So again, just saving time, putting efficiencies in where we can. The Esri widget and collector integration is also a really interesting one. So those of you familiar with what we've been doing with Esri is they have a collector application which can start with your data points or your assets, if you will, inside of the ArcGIS system. And so from that point, we were able to have users tap on a link and jump into iForm, passing in some information, let's say about that point. It could be the XY, it could be the name of it, or really just some basic details. And from there, we were able to have a more robust form, as that's our focus, to be able to capture a bunch of extra data on this point. Do the subforms, do all sorts of really fun things with the media, and then basically have that record data fly back into the Esri platform. And so we needed a client-server solution, and we delivered that, I think, later this summer, or this past summer. So very cool. If you're interested in that, let us know. We can share more. The record drop point and location priority really goes along with the whole GIS mapping initiative. And so this is allowing users to, from the device, say, I want to start a record here. And here may be 20 miles away across the river, somewhere that you can't get easily. But with a telescope, or not a telescope, but a pair of binoculars or something like that, you're able to find an asset and say, this is where this was. And so location priority is also effectively saying how the map on the record view, which is on the device, is actually interpreting location data. So for a long time, we've always shown modified location of the record. If you had a location widget or this Esri widget in the form, you could actually select that as the location priority and display records based on those points, not the modified location. Again, like I said, we optimized for iOS 8 in the same year, and this was a pretty smooth transition. Obviously, there's some APIs that get deprecated, so we have to test those early and make sure we have a plan to resolve those when the iOS deploys. But we've also taken advantage of a few performance benefits as well. Along with that came a new form menu. You can see down below, this is the revised form menu icon shows here in the corner. It's de-emphasized, the name is emphasized, and the status icons are all going to display up top here. We've also, oops, sorry about that. We also have got a little I button at the bottom there, so the description of the form or other details about the version, who created it, who modified it, can also be viewed by the users of the device. Helpful if you have somebody saying that they're not seeing new fields you've added, maybe their version is out of date or they haven't synced. We've also added improvements for drop connections with some folks that were working in very remote locations with really long forms and big option lists. We were seeing some issues there, so this is really just a product of working with our customers, making sure we understand the problems and then addressing those problems as soon as we can. Custom keyboard, this is for the folks that wanted to have, let's say, a text-based field, but a number pad pop up, or any sort of variation that the iOS keyboards offer. This is a big one, guaranteed delivery post. I think this is really going to be it is a huge addition. And so, post is really our preferred method of how folks should integrate with our platform as it comes to record data. So as users are uploading data from the field and it hits the server, it should just be pushed wherever it needs to go next, and to as many locations as it needs to go to, which is where the multiple post endpoints also comes into play here. But we understand systems go down or networks fail, and so guaranteed delivery is very key in driving the whole post data revolution. If something goes down, we have to be able to retry, and now that we have that, I truly believe that we'll see a huge adoption of using post over pulling data out of the system. End of this year, we made a big step with our API in regards to actually granting access to every single user in the system. Now, this is still basically granted by a company or server admin. So you have to give a user of a lower role access to have an API application or token, if you will, access to do things. And so what this allows you to do is really just extend the functionalities of the application out to users that would not have that in the past. For those folks with private databases, you also can say, okay, well, Group A can run some integrations that don't impact Group B, and they're not able to see each other's data. So they may want to integrate with some other cloud platforms, and the best way to do that is through an API request. You're able to now grant separate projects access into their little slice of your private database. Whereas before, if you had API access, you could see everything in the database. So a nice improvement there, and hopefully that works well for everyone. And not to mention, we did a lot of security failover and performance upgrades throughout the year. Just the ecosystem changes constantly, and this is just all about doing homework, understanding where your deficiencies are, and then just fixing them. So we constantly do this, and just wanted to throw a shout out to the infrastructure guys for really making sure that the system is stable and stays up. Okay, so 2014, all done. We're on to 2015. That's what everybody's looking at now. But before we get into that, I'd actually like to walk you through kind of our methodology, how we think, and just be transparent about our process. And so to start things off, we develop at warp speed, and this is indicative of the 12 releases that we did, scheduled releases we did in 2014. I mean, these are fast. We're talking like 2 weeks of basically, this is what we're going to do, have the code done, it's tested, and then we start our deployment cycle. And then as soon as the deployment cycle starts, we're back at it, and we've got the next round of items defined, and we're coding again. So that's how we do things. We like to keep the code moving quickly, and there's a couple why we do that to back this up. We also do just enough functionality, and what I mean by this is we don't take 6 months or a really long time to kind of decide on how to implement something, what all the bells and whistles should be. We put just enough functionality out there so that it's usable, and we start to get feedback and understand how this feature can really be used by folks in the field. Because sometimes our ideas just don't translate as well as we think they will, and so rather than hold off and not deliver, we want to deliver just enough and then see how that evolves. Which leads me into the next one, is improve, improve, improve. And there's always room for improvement in any system. And we really value the feedback that we get on a daily basis to understand, where the choke points are, or, what could really streamline things in the field, add value to the platform. Function over form, it has to work. And we've seen comments over the year where we may not be the prettiest application out there on the market, and we're okay with that. We will try to add in UI improvements when we can, but ideally the functionality that everyone relies on is got to be there, and we want to make sure that that's on the leading edge. We also are ears to the ground and eyes forward, and so ears to the ground is listening to all the feedback we get on a daily basis, constantly reviewing community forums, looking through support tickets and other emails from early exchanges, but also looking forward. So we need to gather that feedback, but also keep our eyes pointed forward as we see new improvements from the Android, the iOS side, new technologies coming out of the server. What's the cool new BI tool? How do we integrate with it? We need to keep our focus pointing forward and just make sure we're not becoming stagnant. And lastly, it's transparently. And so those folks who've been following the release notes see that we're adamant about posting what we're going to do when we're going to do it, and then executing. If we're going to miss a deadline, then we're posting that as well. So we want to make sure that everything we're doing is transparent, and that if you have questions, and you have the chance to ask them before something happens. Just a quick pause, Barrett. Are there any questions that you wanted to throw up now?
No, Tony, thank you. Everything is going smoothly over here, but just a reminder, if you guys do have any questions about what we did in 2014 or how we developed, just place them in the go-to webinar and I'd be happy to answer them. Or like I said, interrupt Tony and we can get those questions answered for you.
All right, thanks, Barrett. All right, so why do we work this way? It allows new ideas to have a fighting chance, and these new ideas come up all the time, and so implementing them quickly in maybe the most, 80%, at the most 80% of the completion, it allows these things to get out there, to be used, and to see how we can improve them and basically take them forward. Business needs also change very quickly, and we try to structure ourselves to accommodate changes and needs rather than to slow things down and become less flexible. So if we were going with 6-month development cycles where we're doing 100 features around, it's really tough to adjust or to account for needed changes. So sticking with a tight cycle where we do a little bit of revision allows us to be adaptable to those changing needs.
All right, Tony, I am going to interrupt. Oops. Sorry, can I interrupt you? All right, there is a question. One of the questions is about the optimization. We talked a lot about the optimization for the iOS, but someone was wondering about the Android in the recap. How have we improved the Android client in this past year?
Oh, that's a great question. So at the end of the year, there was a release for Android, which basically upped the version of the software development kit that the Android is offering. And this has also raised the minimum iOS version as well that devices can be running in order to run the latest Android. So by upgrading to the latest development kit, we see a lot of improvements that way. Does that help answer the question?
That is perfect. And I may interrupt you shortly. We've got a lot of questions coming in now, which is great. But keep going, Tony.
Okay, fantastic. I'll keep rolling then. So again, why we work this way is that the smaller cycles that we engage help to fight scope creep and also support the on-time delivery of those releases. In my experience, if a release is scheduled to have, let's say, 100 items in it and it's going to take 2 months, there's a good chance that will go to 3.5 months and will contain 250 or 450 items. So trying to keep things well-defined and limited lets us execute consistently and on time, and then we can reload for the next round. All right. Again, it's kind of the cliche saying, practice makes perfect. And with frequent deployments, it actually results in fewer upgrade problems because you're doing it all the time rather than less frequently. So, the more deployments, in my experience, you engage in, the quicker you iron out issues in your deployment processes, the better you get at it, and upgrades are transparent and can happen really at any time. It's not a scary thing. It just becomes something that we do. It also lets us have new ideas, become molded by our users. And so you'll see if you look back that we've had ideas that have launched and have really evolved based on feedback. And we really want to encourage that that community feeling where users are actually talking amongst each other. Include us in the conversation, and we're happy to get involved as well. But we really want you guys to collaborate. How does this one feature translate across many different industries? What can be done to let it help everyone rather than just addressing like one specific need? And then also this early insight that we gather back lets us save time on developing useless features. And so we may have what we think is a fantastic idea, and if we spent a couple months working on that and push it out there and nobody likes it, then we've done a disservice to our user base and community. One, by wasting time, and two, publishing something that no one can use or no one really cares about. Hopefully, we don't ever do too many of these. But that's why we put things out with just enough functionality and do these things quickly. It's all about getting feedback and improving.
So Tony, I have a couple questions that just came in. One of them being, this individual says, the one issue I have had in getting clients to get excited about iForms is that lack of intuitive or familiar input select styles on your forms. Do you plan to offer the ability to have checkboxes, true down pickers, text field inputs that don't require a separate screen, multi-selects, etc.?
Okay, great question. I can tell you that we've tried to stick as closely as possible to the native elements available by the Android and the iOS, and the reason for doing that is it allows us to upgrade with less problems, and it's also better for performance. On the comment on inline text, I really want to look into that. The nature of our application is it's a paging-based application, and so it's just not part of how our application flows today.
All right, thank you, Tony. Another question that came about was about our form builder.
Okay.
And I know that you're going to talk about that shortly, so just keep in mind people are interested to see form builder and building and editing forms on the go on their device. So I know we're coming up to that topic shortly, but I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that to you.
Okay, great. That's good to know. Any more questions?
Not right now, but thank you.
Okay, great. Let's go ahead and jump forward and get into 2015. So at a high level, we have a mindset shift coming, and this mindset shift is basically iFormBuilder will grow from being a product and will grow into a platform. So our mentality is that we want to make sure that we're designed in a way that we can connect to many things out on the server side as well as on the client side, and that we have this platform mentality, not just an isolated product mentality. Also, enterprise focus. We need to pay attention to what the enterprise needs in terms of security, massive deployments, and basically these features that not many other folks are really thinking about right now. Use some of our experience working in the consulting world to kind of stay ahead of this curve. We also want to redesign the server APIs to make them more flexible and also allow us to change them and add to them more frequently. Currently, it's a little tough to do that right now with the way they're designed, so look for some redesigned server APIs coming soon. Calvin, better get to work. And then the new client API. So we've gotten a glimpse of this in the third-party widget and the custom URL scheme, and we want to keep going with that. We want to expand and really, go in the mindset that iForm is just another tool on the device, and users will have many tools on the device. Open up the iForm client so that it can call these other tools or these other applications, do a little bit of work there, and then bring the results back into iForm. And for those of you who watched the Worldwide Developer Conference this past year, Apple got really excited about something called extensions. And basically, it's a way for one app to talk to another's app's functionality without really doing like a switch, changing applications, if you will. And so it's really cool. It should really expand what's possible in terms of applications talking to each other, and we want to make sure we're open and ready to play in that game when others catch up. So we're also going to focus on server-side logic, and this is actually kind of similar to what Zapier is doing, and I'll say it that way because it's probably the easiest thing to understand. But we want to be able to have the server start doing logic like the client does. So if a record comes in and the score is below 60%, you want to be able to do something with that record, take action. Whether it's a reassignment, whether it's an email somebody, have the server give the server logic the same way the client does. And this could also expand into setting values too. So if a score comes in, you set another value to failed, and then all the fails get reviewed by the manager on a weekly basis. Just a simple example. And Form Builder, yes. So we want to retire the existing Form Builder, introduce a new Form Builder, and by new I mean new technology. And so I think what we're looking at and what we've seen so far is the biggest disadvantage is it's in Flash, it's not mobile friendly, and it's dated. So the new Form Builder will basically carry the same functionality of the existing. We've got some plans to change the UI a little bit to make it more user friendly and just require less clicks in the process. So being able to modify forms on the device is going to become a reality, hopefully in 2015. And then lastly is power to the community. Again, we really value the feedback we get from the fields, and we want to encourage community discussion outside of just iForm talking with the community, but the community intermingling and posting examples, sharing what they've done, solving problems together, and we want to be a part of that as well, but also want to encourage others to talk amongst themselves. So that's the high-level overview for 2015, and I'll stop just for a minute to see if there's any questions. Barrett?
Sure, we do have a couple questions. One question is, with multiple users and locations deployment, do you offer any MDM, or which third party would you recommend?
Okay, so we do not offer an MDM solution directly. I can tell you that we've helped implement different MDMs or help manage or advise on different MDM solutions. The most familiar I am with is AirWatch and also the OS X server. And so Apple has their own MDM. If you have a Mac in-house, you can actually run their server, and their built-in MDM lets you manage iOS devices. If you need iOS and Android, then you'll probably have to buy a third-party SaaS-based solution. AirWatch, Mass 360, there's a bunch of them out there.
All right, and then another question is, can you integrate with an audio input card reader for iPad? Currently, it seems that you can capture credit card data through the Lightning input only.
Okay, so this is for the card readers that plug into the jack. I would say that we could do it, and it's not something that we have done. We're working with some barcode scanning technology, or I'm sorry, some magnetic strip scanning technology in the Linea Pro, and so most folks are using that if they're capturing data. But again, we're not hooked into a payment processor, so it would be a data capture only.
All right, that's it for now. Thank you, Tony.
Okay, great. And so with a glimpse into 2015, I'm going to jump right into Q1 since we're already underway. And the first thing we have listed here is actually integrated with the Node Plus platform. If you've checked the App Store recently for updates, you'll see that, I think, was it Friday or this past Monday, we just released an update, and we're integrated with the Node Plus platform. And the Node Plus is a hardware device which actually is capable of having multiple endpoints. And you can do like a thermal scan, or you can do a, let's see, I guess I can just jump out to that website, right? And so basically, this is the node. There's a good picture of it. Here we go. So you can see there's a main body, and then you can also have different connections on each end. So barcode scanning, you can do CO2 measurements. There's one to measure luminosity, a couple other things, gas as well as motion. And so the interesting thing about this one is we've actually done software-to-software integration rather than integrating with their hardware directly. So this is using custom URL schemes in the iFormBuilder third-party widget. The iForm application will call their software. Their software will handle the scanning or the reading, whatever action you may be doing, and then it will pass the result back to iForm. So really cool. We're super excited about this. Just gives us a glimpse into what's really possible and how extensions could improve the user experience. So we can actually check this one off the list for Q1. And what we're working on currently, which I'm sure all of you will be excited to hear, is the fuzzy search on the option list. And so we've had smart option lists and the ability to filter option lists for a while, but you had to have another key to work from. So either a different selection from a list above, or text field where maybe where you type in a letter to say show me only the options for C, and this should save a lot of time and really be helpful. So you'll be able to open this option list element, start typing in some text at the top of the field, and then the options will dwindle based on what you're typing in. Okay, so yeah, moving on to the next item. This would be the record view performance. So we've learned from several users in the field that as the device grows with local records saved on a particular form, if you have basically a lot of columns showing, or really there's just a lot of records being captured and saved locally, that this view performance slows down dramatically. And so in the the spirit of focusing on disconnected, we'll take a really deep look at this to try to understand where the problem exists, how we can maintain the flexibility that we have today in terms of sorting those records and displaying a different amount of columns based on whatever you set in the form builder. But making sure that that does not slow down as you start stacking a couple hundred rows in there. So we're taking a deep look at this and really want to solve this problem because it's it just needs to be solved. So we're kind of running through these in order of kind of our priority or how we're going to work on them. So you'll get an idea of the kind of the schedule for Q1 as well. Scoring output for PDF and email reports. Those of you who are leveraging scoring on the server side are familiar. We can produce a scoring report in either an HTML or like a JSON format. And so this does all the heavy lifting for you if you're doing, let's say, multiple choice questions or anything that leverages an option list. You're able to do scoring a lot easier with that server-side scoring. But we want to just extend the reports out to the email PDF. Since a lot of folks are leveraging email, we've gotten feedback saying it'd be fantastic for these, these scoring values to get kicked off to my customer or my, the person taking the test, if you will. So we'll be adding those in, and you can look at them as well. Another one is built-in variables, and so a number of requests have come up. How can we leverage the data we've entered into the server side to use them in our forms? And we have the iFormBuilder.username variable. So this is expanding on that, adding in first name, last name, email address. We've got a number of requests there to be able to use that data, and it does make sense to let you have access to it. The other thing is going to be custom email subjects, and so this is another one that's been widely requested, having a field which can actually act as your email subject. So rather than just having the new record and the record ID, this will allow you to define the subject for the email which is being sent out. Also having CC, I think that's a typo, not BSS, but VCC options for email alerts. So in addition to sending every day an email, we've also seen requests to say, well, it'd be cool if I can carbon copy or blind carbon copy to improve as well. So look for those coming in Q1. Another type there, sorry about that, custom form background. So this is defined at the form level. Basically, right now you can define a background at the company level, which is going to appear for every user within that company. We're going to extend that down so that at the form level, this can be defined if you want it to have a custom image or background.
Hey Tony, even though we have some typos on there, we still can't see that screen. I think you may have paused your screen sharing.
Okay. Can you see that now?
There we go. Yep.
All right. Sorry about that. Okay.
And now everyone can see our spelling errors, so it's all good.
Yeah, yep, that's full transparency for you right there. Okay, so custom background or form background was what I was finishing up on. And then also adding more customizations at the widget level. So an example would be photo size. Right now we've got photo size defined at the device level. So users can pick what photo size they want to use. just after hearing feedback, learned that some pictures don't need to be as big as other pictures, but some pictures need to be extra large. And so rather than putting that control at the device level, we want to bring it down, allow it to be defined at the widget level. Oh, wrong application. There we go. All right, so that's what's on the agenda for Q1, and one of the reasons why this might look so light is because we know there's going to be things that jump up that that just have to be handled, and so planning for constant change and knowing this will happen, there's some room for flexibility within this schedule. Just in case you're wondering why why it looks like we're not doing much. Leading into Q2, we want to focus on custom views and feeds. And what I mean by this is if you have a form with, let's say, 35 or 40 fields, you may want to make a view or a feed which is only representing 5 of those fields. And then you may want to make another one which is representing 10 of those fields. And that could relate to different levels of management. So upper management needs to see everything, middle management needs to see 20 out of those 35, and maybe the end users see 5. So you'll be able to take a data source, create a custom view and feed, which is effectively a long-term filter, and then assign that out to users. So they could collect data in the really large form, but then you give them access to a subset of that data, let them have visibility into that. All right. On top of that will be the option to then share views and feeds. So we think that the creating custom views and feeds, the ability to share those would also encourage groups to maybe open up and start really working together. So if I capture a bunch of data, I put good money and time into capturing that information, and I may want to put a price tag on that, but there's that information which I can share with my either my competitors or groups around me to just help build a stronger economy or just improve that group's ability to have access to information and not repeat the same thing. So you may think that's a crazy idea, but we think there's a really good use for it, and outside of sharing with your competitors or other groups that you might work with, can be useful for moving third-party integrations. Another one that we're going to circle back on after this new form builder is rolled out is a form tree design, and this will most likely be an alternate view. So in the form menu, you'll see every single form that you have listed, and then in the form tree view, you will actually see the structure of your forms. As most folks are leveraging subforms, going many levels deep, then you'll be able to actually see the structure of your forms, be able to select that, jump in, and just navigate these complex forms a little bit easier. Another one that we're looking into and should be available in Q2 is being able to post labels instead of raw data. And so currently those folks relying on PostXML or JSON are seeing the raw data sent across. And so these are your column names, these are your key values, and for some of these BI tools, it would be much much cleaner and look better if these were labels versus key values. So we're looking at that and should have something available in Q2. Another one which we've been playing around with internally, and it just needs to kind of be redesigned and implemented correctly, is this form import and export utility. And so as you build forms, you want to make a backup or a copy of those, or move them from profile 1 to profile 17. And there's vehicles to do that. But what happens if you want to go from maybe one database to another database? So in a large organization, North America has their own account, Australia has their own account, United Kingdom has their own account. Can we build a utility that allows these forms to basically be exported from one environment and imported into the next environment, and go beyond, or actually, go all-inclusive and get the form definition, the option list, all the logic, all the localizations, any scoring parameters that may be assigned. And so this is going to be a very robust utility. The cool thing about it is it's going to leverage all the public iFormBuilder APIs. So it's not anything that's custom proprietary. It's actually just an integration we're doing with our own technology. And then granular user permissions. So we've avoided this one for quite a long time, and we really want to get this done, and we know there's a need for it. So being able to really break down the user permissions outside of just the company admin, a iFormBuilder, or basic user, letting admins say, well, this particular user should have edit rights on this form, but no rights on this form, and can't build forms or can't build option lists, and really get detailed into what users can do within the platform, rather than defining these these cookie cutter type roles. Better than any questions?
Tony, we've got lots of questions. Are you ready for those?
Okay.
Our first question.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. I guess we got a couple
All right.
more. So if you want to hold tight, we'll run through and do closing, and then just open it up.
Sure.
Okay. Additionally, in Q2, we're planning on pushing scoring to the client application. And so right now, the scoring that you see on the iFormBuilder admin has to run on the server, either in a JSON, an HTML, an email, or a PDF. And it has to have the data synced from the device up to the server in order to do the scoring. So we want to bring scoring down to the device. When you collect a record, if you're offline, you'll be able to run those scoring outputs. Most like the HTML file will pop up, and then you can save it, you can PDF it, you can email it, or just dismiss it. And so we want to take advantage of that same function we've got on the server and make it available on the client. So if you're doing scorecarding type of forms, you can produce that and not have to write custom JavaScript functions anymore. Form element optionless locking. I'm sorry, it should be form comma element. Form element and optionless locking. So this is the idea that an author can effectively lock down assets of something that they build. And so I could build a form with 20 elements and a few option lists and lock everything except for maybe 2 fields. And then I could use this export utility or share or do something to basically put this form in another profile, another environment, but still have the design and all the attributes of the form locked down. So users can't modify the things that I lock, but they will be able to modify things I would leave open for editing. So we really want to get this done in Q2 and kind of add on to the ability of people being able to share using this import-export tool. Supporting 2-factor authentication is also something we're digging into, just to make sure that we're staying current and making sure that for the folks that have higher demands on logging in, that we can satisfy those needs. And then also secure signature. And so this is basically a digital signature, making sure that the file or the image that somebody might produce, or even going as far as saying the record that they produce is basically digitally signed. So that's another thing we're going to try to tackle in Q2. I think that leads me to my final message, is that we're hiring, especially on the development side. We're really looking for folks who are excited about the things that we're working on and want to be a part of that team, like being able to really add value to a growing platform. So let us know. And Darren, do you want to take us through the closing?
Sure, Tony. This is just the links for our upcoming training sessions, as well as once this training is complete, I am going to create a web page that will have this recording, as well as have a downloadable link of this PDF. I'll fix the spelling errors before that, of course, but you will have access to that. We'll also send out an email for you, since you have signed up with the link to that web page. The other support options we have is just our implementation support, our training courses, as well as if you have a dedicated database and you haven't used your Kickstart training sessions, then you still have those 4 hours. Now, Tony, if you're ready, I have a list of questions that I'd like for us to go through. And from there, we'll answer all these questions.
Fantastic. Let's do it.
Okay, so one of the questions says, iForm is universally a wonderful solution that brings small businesses in reach of creating business apps. A move to a platform enterprise focus seems to run in the face of historical success for iFormBuilder. Comment?
So is that a question or is that a comment on?
It's more of a comment. So they
Oh,
would
okay.
like your feedback on us moving more towards an enterprise. Is
I
that
gotcha.
going against what we've been historically successful with?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's where we see our growth, and it's it's really what we want to focus on. So we appreciate your support and us driving in that direction, and we'll continue to try to clean up on the UI side of things, and do the little things that do help I guess add that value. But we're really going to focus on knocking down the really tough problems and tackling things that enterprises need.
All right, so then another question is, are there any plans to allow geofencing for form collection? The idea that some forms can only be collected when the user is located within a predefined area or geo vicinity.
I think that is a fantastic idea, and yeah, I would love to look into that and learn a little bit more about the requirements and how that would work. So current plans, no, but I would love to learn more.
Then there's another question that I believe is a part of the node, and they ask, can this capture chemical compounds within water or soil?
Ooh, I'm not sure they have a water or soil monitor. And one of the reasons we like working with the node group is, or the variable int group, is that they're similar to us in that they're always evolving. And so if there's a problem out there and there's if there's a way they can solve it, then they're happy to dig in. So I don't think they have a solution today, but I'll check into it and we can get back to you. Or you can contact the variable group directly and just maybe kind of convey your needs, because the integration is already done. So basically any probe that they add is ready to go and work with iForm.
Okay, thank you, Tony. And then some of these comments and questions are really suggestions. And I don't know if Tony, you really pointed this out yet, but with these suggestions, we do have a place for you to put in all your suggestions, and we actually get our ideas from there. And that's from our voting for features section in our knowledge base. And so, Tony, if you want to show them where that is while I get the next question for you, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you should still be able to see my screen. Um, big screen here. But from the Customer Success Center, we have basically a 3-button main menu. And if you tap on the community, you'll find that there is a vote for features and vote for new ideas section right here. And basically, we are polling this, constantly. I mean, it's always being reviewed, and as we cut new development cycles, we try to take things that have been voted up the most, but also if there's new ideas that we can implement because we're already working on a component or something that's related, then we'll scoop those up too. So we do focus on what the community is supporting, try to take those highest voted features, but we will pick stuff up that's new and may not have sat around for a while and gotten a lot of activity.
All right, Tony, our next question is about our annotation feature that's currently just on the iOS side of things. Is it going to be pushing to the Android anytime soon?
Yes, so and that's a good thing. I did not really call out Android as much as I should have. So yes, we do want to bring the features of the Android client up to par with the iOS in terms of what release cycle will actually hit the Android and the drawing and the annotation widget. I'm not sure. Let me take a step back and we can maybe send you an email or put an update out for the community.
All right, so then my next question is about the form tree. Someone says, with the form tree, will it be easier to navigate from parent forms to subforms without having to go back to iFormBuilder and having to find that subform or parent form?
I think we're absolutely open to suggestions on how that should work. Initially, the idea would be if you have a parent form and you're looking at this tree view, then just like folders on your on your laptop or your desktop, you can kind of click through the relationship. There'd be a drop-down menu, and you can kind of expand the tree or collapse the tree. So hopefully it should be able to see where you were and navigate to the next tier much quicker.
All right, thank you. The next question is, are there any plans to implement being able to delete forms or entire folders off the mobile device, but not iFormBuilder.com? So basically, I think what they're referring to is, right now we can go in and individually delete each record. Can you do a chunk of records at a time from your device?
So you would want to actually delete many records that you have on a particular form, but not clean the local database.
Right.
No, I can tell you I have no plans for that right now, but it sounds like it's a good request. I mean, I can actually think the times where I was testing, it would be helpful to dump all the records for one form and not have to clean everything.
I think that we should definitely have that and make sure it's in the Vote for Features section.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
And then, Tony, we're getting near the end now, but another question is, will Granular focus on allowing client-side to view only their records and reassign records to themselves?
That's the idea, right? So we can break the role structure down and let admins effectively determine, what a user can do on any given form. So basically, if you think how the database works, there's add new record, there's edit record, there's a delete record, and we would include assignment in that as well. So you could give that to a particular user on a particular form, but then not let them have permissions to another form, even if they were given, let's say collect rights. They couldn't do the editing and the reassigning. So that's the intent there, is to really let admins determine what access their users have and do it at a per form basis rather than in a cookie cutter structure. Hopefully that helps answer your question.
I definitely think it does. There are some other questions, Tony, about our Esri and ArcGIS collector integration. As we know, we did work a lot on that in 2014. In 2015, are people going to be seeing any improvements?
I would like to hear what improvements we should be focusing on. I think the integration will continue to improve. Right now I would say there's not too many folks that are really leveraging this. So hopefully, as more folks use it, we'll get feedback and then can plan for those improvements.
Okay, and I know some groups, and this one specifically, is just looking so that they can have more than one Esri user login connected to their dedicated database. So there's one suggestion that we have and that we can think about later.
Okay, so more than one user connected to the same company account?
Yep. Or even I think just with the dedicated database, I guess they weren't. Maybe it was just a confusion then. But
let's we
can talk through it later.
Okay.
And some of these questions, Tony, I think we can answer offline, but I just want to thank everybody else for joining us today and going through this process with us. We're really excited about what 2000